So one of the main barriers that people face when accessing work, training or education is transport, and that's generally down to public transport availability. While there are still bus services in rural areas, they are generally heavily reduced compared to those in towns. They do exist, but they're very restricted, so perhaps your first bus won't be till 10 o'clock in the morning, or your last one of the day is at 4 o'clock. And obviously that's not conducive to people trying to do a 9-to-5 job, never mind a lot of people that are doing shift patterns. We've got a lot of industrial sites where a lot of employment happens in Derbyshire, and so they may be starting at 6 o'clock in the morning and they're never going to get a bus for that time. Quite often there are, like I say, there is public transport, but sometimes the local bus stop will be like a good 10-15 minute walk out of the village or whatever, and I'm sure you're aware the little country roads, you don't want to be walking down those late at night or early in the morning. Obviously you can get a high vis, which we'd always recommend, but it's not the safest option for people.
One morning, 7th of January, I got off the bus, which is just a bit further up the road, and crossed the road, completely dark, no street lights, fell down a pothole and broke my ankle in 3 places. And I was supposed to take my driving test the week after.
So Wheels to Work was set up about 17 years ago, and initially it was set up to help people living in typical rural areas, so like little hamlets and those sorts of things, and it was to help not only people to leave those areas to reach employment and education, but also to bring workforce into those areas as well, so farm work, village shops, little community post offices, those sorts of things. Over the time, our reach has actually increased. We realised that actually anyone can be suffering from isolation, even if they're in a slightly larger town. I mean, for example, I live in a relatively big town and I work a 15-minute drive away. However, if I was to do that on public transport, it's going to take me over an hour to get here on time and to return on time. So actually that has a huge impact on people's quality of life if they're spending 2 hours additional to their 7-hour working day commuting. So Wheels to Work can really help reduce their travel times. It also really encourages people to actually look for a job or a training opportunity that they really want to do. They're not just going to settle for working in the village shop because that's where they can get to. They're going to do something that they really want, and therefore hopefully the idea is that they won't then suffer with job dissatisfaction and they'll be able to sustain that employment longer.
I wouldn't be able to be, doing this job if I didn't have that support from Wheels to Work. I've got my independence, and I can just call in at the shop and pick something up, whereas before I had to rely on lifts to get to work.
There's always going to be a need for transport support. It's certainly a service that I'll be pushing to continue. Funding is incredibly tight at the moment. With COVID, a lot of funding pots have been taken up by other services that have needed that support. But as far as I'm concerned, the need for Wheels to Work is still massively there.